by Zoom. Good morning. At this time, we'll call to order the Board of County Commissioners meeting for Thursday, December the 8th. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Fast on Zoom.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Here.
Commissioner Hanslick is absent. Commissioner Ashcraft.
Here.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand here.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert here. We do have 6 members present, so we do have a quorum. Would you join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For those who are present, if you have a noise-making device, would ask that you turn it to silent mode or off so as not to interfere with the electronic communications. We have no presentations to make this morning, so we'll turn to the public comment. And for those who are speaking in person or virtually, would limit your comments to 2 minutes, state your name and address, and we'll be glad to receive those comments. Would the clerk please read our first commenter?
In person, we have Ben Hobart. Ben Hobart.
Ben Hobart, Westwood Hills. I made a misstatement last week. VAERS 2447825, in which a physician referenced 18 new cancers. I should have stated only one was unvaccinated at the 629 mark. The other 17 were clot-shotted. Carol Pierce of Saskatchewan, Canada, age 69, had taken 2 clot shots and a booster without adverse effect. On September 14, she got her bivalent booster and died in the drugstore 7 minutes after receiving the clot shot. The coroner said she died from natural causes. Her daughter, Stephanie Foster, disagrees, stating, "I do not believe that this was caused from natural causes. My mom had no health conditions. I believe had she not gotten that COVID shot, then she would be here with us today. She left for her appointment happy and energetic." Dr. Angus Dalgleish is a renowned oncologist practicing in the UK. He recently wrote an open letter to the British Medical Journal. The doctor states, in relevant part, "As a practicing oncologist, I am seeing people with stable disease rapidly progress after being forced to have a booster, usually so they can travel." He recounts several of his personal contacts who have developed various forms of B-cell-based disease, including leukemia, lymphoma, and cancer. He also states, "The reports of innate immune suppression after mRNA for several weeks would fit, as all these patients to date have melanoma or B-cell-related cancers, which are very susceptible to immune control. And that is before the reports of suppressor gene suppression by mRNA in laboratory experiments. Don't blithely disregard cumulative possible toxicity from boosters. God has provided each of us with an incredible innate and adaptive immune system. In the past 3 years, many have mocked God's creation, saying you have to get clot shotted to be protected. The full truth has not been told to mankind. I know God hates deceit. So should we. That is precisely why I am here. Do your own due diligence. Do not be deceived or psychologically manipulated. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Chair, that completes our public comment.
That does conclude our public comment period. We will now turn to the agenda items, the consent agenda. Will the clerk please read the consent agenda items?
Excuse me, Chair, we have one note for the record.
Pardon? Oh, excuse
have-
me. Yes, would you please read that?
Thank you. The chairman noted for the record that he would sign the following: funding agreements with the Enterprise Center of Johnson County, the United Community Services of Johnson County, the County Economic Research Institute, the Johnson County Fair Board, and the Arts Council of Johnson County for fiscal year 2023 in accordance with the approved FY 2023 budget.
Okay, thank you for that. Moving to the consent agenda.
Item number 1, consider approving the appointment of Julia Meyer, 6th District Representative to the Commission on Aging through August 31st, 2025. Item number 2, consider ratifying the appointment of Becky Parrott, Chairman's appointment to the Commission on Aging through August 31st, 2023. Item number 3, consider approving the appointment of Paula Swatch, 1st District Representative to the Airport Commission through July 31st, 2025. Item number 4, consider approving the reappointment of Scott Gregory, 1st District Representative to the Consolidated Fire District Number 2 through August 25th, 2025. Item number 5, consider approving the reappointment of Laura Carey, 1st District Representative to the Consolidated Fire District Number 2 through August 25th, 2025. And item number 6, consider approving an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Mission to facilitate the Nelson Wastewater Treatment Facility Improvements Project.
Thank you. Is there any commissioner who would like to have an item considered separately? Is there anyone present who would like to have an item considered separately? If not, it's back before the commission. A motion would be in order. Ms. Allenbrand?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve the consent agenda as written.
Myers, second.
Allenbrand made the motion. Myers seconded the motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 6 votes in favor. Motion carried. Moving to the action agenda.
Item number 7, consider approving the November 10th, 2022 business session minutes. Commissioner Myers was absent for county business. He must abstain.
Okay. Are there any corrections or additions to be noted? If not, do I hear a motion to approve? Ms. Allenbrand?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve the November 10th, 2022 business session meeting minutes.
Do I hear a second? Eilert will second the motion. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes as presented. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, abstain.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 5 votes in favor. Motion carried. Item number 8.
Resolution number 100-22. Hold a public hearing and consider approving an amendment to resolution number 077-20 and to approve a substantial amendment to the 2021 annual action plan to accept an additional $3,977,106 of American Rescue Plan grant funds administered by the Home Investment Partnerships Home-ARP program from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD.
Public hearing is open. Mr. Leipzig.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jay Leipzig, the Planning, Housing, and Community Development Director. And if you wouldn't indulge me just for a moment, I wanted to introduce again Heather McNeve is our new Housing Services Director, who just joined us 7 days ago. So we're very pleased and excited to have Heather join us, and so you will see her again. So thank you, Heather.
Very good. Welcome.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the chance. Jay Leipzig, Planning, Housing, and Community Development Director. This is to hold a public hearing to accept funding for an additional $3,977,106 for Home ARP project funds, and which includes $3,380,546 for home project funds and $596,560 for administration and planning. These funding source, this is similar to associated with the American Rescue Plan. That was the county received notice in April that we were awarded these funds through a entitlement process, through a formula allocation through HUD. This step, what this does essentially is to accept the funding, we have to comply with the federal requirements, which includes creating a substantial amendment to our annual action plan and also creating and conducting a needs assessment for the community, which is what is included in your agenda packet. That is about 80 pages long. What the county is proposing is placing these funds and utilizing them for a non-congregate shelter. However, this first step, just to ensure we manage expectations, really is it parks the funds to accept them. We do have 10 years to spend those funds in compliance with the requirements, but additional work and other steps will need to take place as we go through that process, an additional review. I also wanted to point out that we have received a letter or comment letter from United Community Services of Johnson County, dated December 5th, and signed by Rita Carr, and I believe Rita is speaking this morning as well, that clarifies some of the numbers used in our tables for the needs assessment and makes some slight adjustments on those figures. So I just wanted to point that out. That is in your packet, and it's part of the public record, and this will all be included when we submit this document to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. With that, as the chairman has mentioned, this is a public hearing. There was a 15-day comment period on these comments, as well as all of any written and verbal testimony this morning will be included and submitted to HUD as well for this document. With that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions you might have.
Mr. Leipzig, this motion accepts the funds, does not specifically authorizing the spending for any particular area. Is that right?
That's correct, sir. We still have to, there would be, I assume, some type of project that would be brought forward and additional work involved in that. They said this fulfills the requirement to conduct the needs assessment, but I think additional studies may be needed, as well as the scope over a 10-year period, that the dynamics and some of the economics might change, and so they'll have to be adjusted as well.
Okay, thank you. Ms. O'Hara.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Mr. Leipzig, last week when you briefed us in the agenda review, there was no mention of any specific projects. Mm-hmm. And I was very concerned when a news article came out in the Shawnee Mission Post, basically lining out how these funds are going to be spent. And this is a process question that I'm very concerned about, is that last week, none of this was mentioned. This was just, we're taking this money, we're parking it for up to 10 years, and then we'll go through the process to decide how it's going to be spent. Well, then, because of let me see, it says that this was from a from our public information, that this information went out to the Shawnee Mission Post. And I don't understand how the commissioners can be told one thing, and then I read in the newspaper that all of these decisions have been made.
Commissioner O'Hara, just to clarify some things, we're replacing the categories for non-congregate shelters, and these funds have to be used for homelessness and homelessness prevention activities. There are no particular projects that are allocated or reserved for. It's total amount for that type of activity. Now, the other thing I might add is over a span of 10 years is a long time. So this substantial amendment might change if there are other changes in the community or that type of thing. That can change, and any change would be brought before this board as well. So just to be clear, there are no particular projects that are funded.
I understand that, but as it's presented, now in the public's mind, these projects are signed, sealed, and delivered. And I think that having expectations put upon this board that we have not approved is not a good policy. And the other thing that I'm very concerned about, and you and I visited about extensively, was that I was very concerned about strings attached to these dollars. And you sent me the document for participating jurisdictions. And as I went to page 16 out of a 97-page document, item 7, it says, that must submit required certifications in accordance with the requirements of this notice, including the following: affirmatively furthering fair housing. And affirmatively furthering fair housing puts a lot of constraints on the planning departments within jurisdictions that accept these funds. And it says, under restored AFHA, and this is from a HUD document released June of 2021, municipalities and other HUD funding recipients must regularly certify compliance with the Fair Housing Act's AFFH requirement, which in doing so commit to taking steps to remedy their unique fair housing issues. Now, everyone wants people to have equal access to housing. That's not the issue. But this plays right into what Prairie Village is going through right now in the big battle on amending their single-family zoning so that it allows duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, et cetera, et cetera. This is a first step in organizing how Johnson County works as far as planning and development. And I am very concerned about that, extremely concerned about it. I mean, this has been described, affirmatively furthering fair housing has been described as the war on the suburbs. And we need to proceed very cautiously when we are accepting these types of monies.
Commissioner Harrod, just to briefly address that, you're correct. Affirmatively furthering fair housing is one of the requirements. However, right now we're required to conduct a review for impediments to fair housing, which is somewhat of a lesser standard. However, to your point, that's why I think it's very careful. We have to be very careful as we fund these type of projects, because they're not only this home ARP, there's also the Home Investments Partnerships funding. CDBG is also has those type of restrictions. And I was visiting with Commissioner Ashcraft earlier this week. That is one of the requirements we need to make sure when these projects are funded that as we to conduct our due diligence and make sure that everything is in proper order. And just to reiterate, and I don't want to get in front of the expectations, or have unreasonable expectations, but there are no projects that are funded. These are strictly allocates the funds, but it does not, or accepts the funds, but there are no particular projects that are funded with it.
No.
Is there going to be a correction sent to the Shawnee Mission Post to indicate that no decisions have been made at this point?
That's something we'll have to visit with Jody Hansen about, our public information officer.
But it goes back to when we are accepting these types of monies, it is undercutting our local control. And that is extremely troubling to me.
Yeah. Well, as stated earlier, this is the acceptance of the funds without specific authorization for any particular project, which will have to come back before the commission for full review. Ms. Allenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It has always been a part of the briefing sheet, unless I missed something, but I also serve on that subcommittee, that the analysis and talking about where this is going, it's to go for the homeless. And it was another one of the steps to help in doing that, providing housing, rental assistance, and ongoing congregate shelter. So it's all in the analysis of, and HUD, the documentation and the paperwork that has to be completed to get those funds is almost overwhelming. So, Mr. Chair, when you're ready, I do have a motion ready.
Okay.
It's a public hearing.
Yeah. Ms. Fass, did you have any comment you wish to make?
Yes, I mean, the briefing sheet's very clear that this is for homelessness and to address non-congregate housing. rental housing. There was nothing that needs to be corrected in the Shawnee Mission Post. I totally disagree with Commissioner Serbot, not Serbot, sorry. And so, yeah, I would also like to follow up on Commissioner Allenbrand's statement. We've been, this commission adopted, the housing insecurity spectrum that our housing subcommittee brought forth. And that spectrum had homelessness as one of the key priorities to address. And so this is right in line with that priority. Also, if you look at the document, the full document, staff has been meeting with stakeholders for several months and to interview and ask for the key priorities. And it was pretty overwhelming. Consensus by all the different stakeholders. They've been doing it for about 6 months. Is homelessness and shelter congregate was one of the key priorities, and also then affordable housing. This is right in line with the priorities of what the community wants, what our first UCS data stated, what our subcommittee brought forth, what this commission adopted. I don't see this out of line at all. Yes, the next step would be for a project, an RFP to go out for a project. This is, as he says, allocates it to that key priority.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments by Ms. O'Hara?
Thank you. Everyone wants to deal with a homeless situation. This is that when this was brought up for agenda review last week, it was not talked about. It was said that we were simply parking these funds and that these decisions would be made in the future. And then also, we need to understand that taking these funds is undercutting our local control, and we're going to be undergoing a review of our comprehensive plan and for the county, and how is that going to impact that process by having the Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing Act rules foisted upon us because we've accepted these monies.
Okay. Any response to that, Mr. Leipzig?
As Mr. Chairman, Jay Leipzig. I will say, in what's happening in Prairie Village, and we, as Commissioner O'Hara is correct, that we are beginning to work on our amendments to our subdivision regulations, which may have some effect in some of our zoning classifications and that type of thing. However, the work that we're talking about for that group wouldn't have any direct effect on that. That's more, we're talking about property setbacks from the rural area, because we do the land planning in the unincorporated area. So most of that is concerning setbacks, conditional use permit terms, and approvals, and those type of parameters. There's some issues with ensuring that affordable housing provisions have some flexibility in zoning codes. We in the county, in the unincorporated area, don't have concerns with that. Our zoning restrictions that are the way they're written, we don't have those type of issues.
Okay, thank you. Well, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone present who would like to speak to this item?
Chair, we have some people that pre-registered.
Okay, very good.
Virtually, we have Cassie Woolworth. Cassie Woolworth.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Fantastic. First and foremost, I want to thank you for getting me into this event. So appreciate the effort by Bill. My name is Cassie Woolworth. I'm at 306 North Pinion. I would like to tell you there is an invisible problem in Johnson County, and it's homelessness. And it's not just the homeless that have problems with property, and we absolutely need to do that. But the housing situation in Johnson County is abysmal. For example, my 23-year-old has 4 roommates because he has to. Not because he doesn't have a job, not because he can't earn a living, but because he must, because Johnson County has outrageous pricing for housing. I think accepting these funds is the way to go. It is funds that we do not have to work for in Johnson County and pay our taxes for in Johnson County. I do understand Ms. O'Hara's, Commissioner O'Hara's issues with the spending of the money, but my question is this. If you can't follow their rules and regulations, why accept the money in the first place? I would think we accept the money and then we follow the rules so that we would not have a problem with our auditing of our projects or the auditing of anything that we decide to do with it. We have to do something about housing. We have to. We do not have enough shelters. There is a waiting list at all of them. Project 1020 was a nice little stopgap, but they have a waiting list. We have shelters that take families but don't take single people. We have a invisible problem in Johnson County, and these funds are going to help solve it. If you can't play by their rules, commissioners, then don't take the money. If we can, we should.
Thank you. Another speaker?
Now we have Rita Carr. Rita Carr.
Good morning. My name is Rita Carr. I'm the Director of Community Planning with United Community Services. We are the lead agency for the Johnson County Continuum of Care on Homelessness. I just wanted to briefly share our support for the proposed Home ARP plan. The county team leading the planning process gathered feedback from many sectors, agencies, providers throughout the county, and people with personal experience with homelessness. They used data to determine where the gaps in our system are and identified a lack of shelter beds for adults in Johnson County. This gap is reflected in our annual point-in-time count data, a one-night event each January where shelters, outreach teams, and volunteers go find and survey people experiencing homelessness. While this data is limited by its nature of being a one-night count, it can be used to spot trends over time, including the increase in adults who are unsheltered. Over the last 10 years, the number of people surveyed while staying outdoors or in their cars has been rising. Keep in mind this count takes place in late January, a time where a small cold weather shelter is open and often at capacity. The point-in-time count data and other homelessness data is available on our website for your reference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have, Now we have Jeff Harkness. Jeff Harkness.
Chairman, Commissioners, Jeff Harkness, 9407 Blue Jacket, Overland Park. I figured this would be a good time to bring up what does equitable mean. My understanding of equitable has been that the grant system has not equitably distributed the grant monies to our local governments and our states and counties since the inception of them. I fully believe this is just another one of those chaotic lawlessness things that the big government, the cronies and corporatists are pushing on us so they can just store this money so they can come back and say, well, you didn't allot this properly. It seems like a vicious cycle to me, and they've used the pandemic to keep it, they want us to keep us at our throats so we follow what they want us to do. I think, you know, you can, if you look at it now, the biggest recipients of grant money over the years has been transportation and education. Transportation is free now. College education is going to be free. I think we just need to be careful because I'm glad we got a consultant to kind of